have the Ayatollah of fantasy rock and roller with us today, Adam Rank. How you doing, Rank?
They look great in person, and I just can't wait till next year where we can pack it full of 25,000.
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. I didn't know it was Ball Guys Day. It was being ranked. I mean, how can you lose?
This is the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast.
Hello out there. We're on the air. It's the ViperCast tonight. This is the Dynasty Vipers ViperCast, episode 136, part 4 of 4. We've talked quarterbacks, we've talked tight ends, we've talked running backs. Now it's time to dive into the wide receiver position and how it pertains to the current consensus ADP going out there right now. But before we dive in, let's give a little shout out to our friends over at the Fantasy Points Media Group who proudly present this show each and every week. And if you go over to fantasypoints.com, you use that promo code Vipers22, tell them the Vipers sent you, you get 10% off that subscription today. And you're going to want to tap that because Graham Barfield's best ball tiers, they just dropped all positions there. So if you're into best ball, get over there. The franchise focus series, that starts dropping here on the 24th. That's 32 articles in 32 days with 32 podcasts in there. And you get all kinds of content, key off-season moves, Graham Barfield's pace and tendencies, Scott Barrett's strengths of schedules. You get data points there. You get projected fantasy contributors from Joe Dolan and Jake Tribby. Dynasty buy lows, courtesy of Wes Huber. John Hansen's final points and interviews with some team beat writers all in that one place. Hey, we're no slouches here either over at the Vipers. You head over to the dynastyvipers.com. We've got all kinds of content coming at you. I'm in the middle of my 32 teams and basically 32 days myself, talking about training camps here, heading up to July 27th, training camp, an article a day basically dropping here. We got all kinds of articles from our other writers as well, plus all kinds of content here on the Vipers Network. Make sure you're subscribed. Hit that button down there. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Whatever it takes, get those notifications on because we are coming at you with all kinds of content. But now, let's dive in to the wide receiver position here, and let's talk about where the consensus currently has some of these wide receivers. Cooper Kupp, he's holding down number one. And you can make an argument for any one of three wide receivers here. In Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, who round out the top three. Devontae Adams at 4. Then it gets a little bit interesting here. Stephon Diggs, CeeDee Lamb, Deebo Samuel, Mike Evans. Those guys come in at number 5, 6, 7, and 8. Then you got Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, Michael Pittman, Jalen Waddle, Deontay Johnson. That rounds out the top 15. From 16 to 20, you've got Mike Williams, DJ Moore, Marquise Brown, Terry McLaurin, and DK Metcalf. And from 21 to 25, give me Allen Robinson, Cortland Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Amon St. Brown, Jerry Jeudy. Yeah, let's give you a few more just for fun here. Chris Godwin, Darnell Mooney, Gabe Davis, Amari Cooper, Juju Smith-Schuster. That rounds out your top 30 currently on the consensus ADP. Now, Major, when you look at this number right now, you look at these names we kind of mentioned here, you look at where they're ranked, which is the one wide receiver, in your opinion, that is too high according to their current ADP?
I'm going to go with T. Higgins, not because of anything that he's doing wrong. It's just you have the GOAT of receivers right now. You have like the next Jerry Rice up in here. So you have to give him all the targets. So I think T. Higgins is going to not fade, but he's not the man there. And you have him above players like AJ Brown. Well, I just lost the list. The AJ Brown, Keenan Allen, Pittman, DJ Moore. Some of these, like McLaurin, you have these people who are like the guy on their team, and you have him ranked above those guys. So that's the only reason I'm curbing him just a little bit. But he's the talent is there. It's not his fault. It's just that Chase is just one of these once in a lifetime type of players you get once every 10 years. So I'm gonna go with that one. Who you got, Matt?
Well, the Bengals are interesting there with T. Higgins because right now they've got 2 wide receivers in the top 10 in ADP. And normally I would kind of shake my head. I'd forget all about that. And then you can talk yourself in, you can talk yourself out because last season we talked about Joe Burrow being sacked 51 times. The only way you're getting sacked is if you're dropping back to pass, right? He's not going to get sacked 51 times this year. So there could be a few more passes getting thrown out there. We know how efficient this offense is going to be. We know this offensive line is going to do what it does. It's rebuilt. We know Joe Mixon is going to get factored in there. Is there too many mouths to feed?
Tyler
or is there going to be a
Boyd.
way for Joe Burrow to spread the ball around this year again? So Tyler Boyd, let's not forget about Tyler Boyd. Hayden Hurst there at tight end. I mean,
Right.
he's a guy that we don't talk about nearly enough at the tight end position. So, yeah, I think Higgins, I can't see him being a top 12, but I think he's a top 15 caliber wide receiver as far as fantasy is concerned. Now, for me, I'm going to slide my attention over to A.J. Brown in Philadelphia. I can't get behind him there where he's going at there. He's going as the wide receiver 12. I think I'd rather have T. Higgins over A.J. Brown. I think I'd rather have Michael Pittman, Waddle, Deontay Johnson, Marquise Brown, DJ Moore. I mean, there's so many wide receivers I can think of that I want over him. Heck, I think I'd rather have, I'll say it right now. I think Brandon Cooks is going to have a better season than A.J. Brown. I wouldn't be surprised in the least by that. You're looking at a guy in Brandon Cooks who I think is going to get 150 targets. I don't think A.J. Brown is going to get that. With Devontae Smith there, with how the Eagles want to run the ball, basically A.J. Brown went from the Tennessee Titans to the Tennessee Titans Northeast. I mean, that's where he's going. He's going to the same exact situation there. Now, I think they can be efficient with those touches, much like they were in Tennessee, but I just don't think he's going to be that guy. So for me, he's that guy. I got a little bit lower. I think he's too high rated currently when we look at these ADP numbers. Now for Tera, she had to step out for just a second. She'll be with us momentarily. That one wide receiver that is too high according to her and the ADP is Allen Robinson, which kind of hurts me because
I'm about to say, I know that hurts you. That's your guy.
I love myself some Allen Robinson.
Yeah.
And when you look at this right now, and I'm going down, I mean, look, Allen Robinson, me and Tara will have a little bit. We've been right lockstep here when we talk about the running backs, but this may be a problem here because not enough respect is going to Allen Robinson. Yes, he's going as a wide receiver too, but he's going to a very good offense there in Los Angeles there where they can support 2 wide receivers. It was just a couple of years ago we were talking about Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp both being potential wide receiver ones in this offense. Heck, Jared Goff made Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp viable options in the passing game. So what do you think Matthew Stafford can do? But hey, Tara's not here right now to defend herself, so I can pile on a little bit until she watches the show on replay, and then I'll probably have to try and justify what I said. Now, Major, when we look at this list, which wide receiver is the most undervalued? And you gotta put some sauce on this or something, because right now I can't even say this name without getting a bad taste in my mouth.
Well, Juju Smith-Schuster has the potential. I mean, has everything you need. He's been a wide receiver 1 in the league. He's been up there with those guys. Just kind of fell off, and I think part of that has to do with the noodle arm quarterback he was playing with at the time, Big Ben. But now that you have the most liveliest of all the arms throwing you the ball, and you can potentially be that wide receiver 1 in the offense that Tyreek Hill just abandoned for Miami. Now how many targets did he have last year? Like at least 90 targets. So you're going to get at least 90 targets out of that wide receiver 1 position in Kansas City. So all I'm saying is everyone likes to make fun of him because he does a TikTok thing and he does all this stuff. He is a young guy. That's what the kids do nowadays. They do TikTok. You know what I mean? So I'm not mad at him for doing that. He's making a name for himself outside the game, which I think more players should do. And I think you're going to see a huge, comeback player of the year if he qualifies. I don't know. What you think about that, Matt?
Well, now I'm going to fight Tara on the Allen Robinson take. Now I'm going to have to fight you on this Juju Smith-Schuster take because I look at this Kansas City offense, and I'm not even sure Juju Smith-Schuster is a top 3 wide receiver on this team. Look, you've got Marquez Valdez-Scantling. He's at deep.
Better than Juju?
Yes, he's better than Juju. Matt. You got Mecole Hardman there, better than Juju. You got
Matt,
Sky Moore, better than Juju.
Matt,
There's some bad juju with Juju Smith-Schuster. That's all I'm going to say. So I'm not even sure he's the top 3 wide receiver on this Chiefs team right now, let alone undervalued. And maybe this is why he is undervalued, because of guys like me talking the way I do about him, right? Exactly. I mean, that's how we kind of got there. But I still stand by the fact I don't think he's going to be that guy. I don't even know if he's penciled in as a slot guy, right? That's what he is. He's a slot kind of guy. And Tyreek Hill, you mentioned him, but Tyreek Hill wasn't just a slot guy. He was outside. I mean, I don't think Marquez Valdes-Scantling is going to lose any snaps on the outside. I don't think Mecole Hardman's going to lose any snaps on the outside. So unless they're going to run 3 wide receivers every single time with Travis Kelce out there, I'm sorry. I can't get behind Juju Smith-Schuster as being undervalued. I think he's probably being overvalued right now, in my opinion. But
my God, that's the worst take I've ever heard you say ever.
Oh, stop it. You know I have all kinds of bad takes.
That's your worst take ever, dude, but I'm going to let you have it.
That's not even the top 10 of my worst takes. Now for me, undervalued, I don't know why I have to keep banging this drum every single time, every single week, every single year. Last year, back in April, I banged the drum for Darnell Mooney. I said, get this guy now. 10th, 12th round value. You're going to get yourself a top-notch wide receiver. What do you end up being? A top-notch wide receiver. I've got written proof. It's in the magazines with the football diehards and this and that. There is written proof. I mean, my love with Darnell Mooney, and that doesn't change this year. When I look at this, wide receiver 27, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me right now with this wide receiver 27? Justin Fields can't be worse than he was last year. Let's call it the way it is. He's going to improve. I mean, he can't be any worse, but he was bad last year. I'll say it.
Maybe.
And I'm not a big Justin Fields guy, but I am a big-time Mooney believer here. And he's a guy who I think could be pushing for wide receiver 12, borderline wide receiver 1 kind of guy. Look at the targets. The target share is going to be there with Darnell Mooney. If you look at it, it's like, I can't remember what the exact number is. I'm just going to pull it up here right now. I think it's close to like 23, 24% is what the target share last year was with Allen Robinson there. We talk about it. There's no one else in Chicago. Cole Kmet, he's going to get himself a little bit. And then you're going to give maybe a little of the pass game to David Montgomery there. But I'm looking at Darnell Mooney here. He was 7th in target share among wide receivers with at least 34 targets. Not 34, sorry, no, 34 targets among any kind of pass catcher, tight ends, running backs. He had a 25.8 target share last year. Almost 26%. And that number was with Allen Robinson. That number is going to go up. That means that wide receiver 27 stuff on the ADP, woo, let's trend that thing up to the moon with Darnell Mooney. Now, when we talk about undervalued receivers, and I could talk about this one too, let's turn our attention to Tera here. She is talking about Russell Gage here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I am all in on Russell Gage. Is another one of those guys I have. Like, you move up boards. Let's be honest with it. Mike Evans is there. Mike Evans is your perennial 1,000-yard receiver, 10-touchdown kind of guy. Russell Gage was handpicked by Tom Brady to come over there from Atlanta to Tampa Bay. Russell Gage is going to see a lot of those early targets that Chris Godwin would normally get. Godwin is not going to come back, I think, at the earliest in October. Push that back 4 or 5 weeks. You're looking at November before Chris Godwin is ready. So week 6, week 7, there's a good solid 6 weeks that Russell Gage is going to get some targets for you. And that's going to pay off big time towards the back end of the season. So he's a guy I definitely think is being undervalued right now. I think he's getting a little bit more hype as we get closer to draft season, but hey, not nearly enough. So let's shout it from the rooftop, Russell Gage. Now, who's a player you're trying to avoid, Major?
I'm going to go with Tyreek Hill.
Bring that heat. Bring that energy. Let's hear it. Let's go.
I'm going Tyreek Hill just on the fact that, I mean, he's been inconsistent, like, especially for fantasy guys. Like, I'll have I had him. That's why I had him for a few years, and it was like 1 week he'll win the whole game for you by himself, and the next week he's nowhere to be found. And plus, I think he's going to eat up a lot of double teams out there in Miami, stretching the field. And I'm big on Waddle. I think Waddle's going to eat on those underneath passes, those quick slants, taking them to the house. So it hurts to say, but Tyreek Hill is one of those names that you say it and people get excited. It just doesn't do it for me. I've had him on my fantasy squad for about 2 to 3 years now, just trading him away. But yeah, I'm off. I'm off of Tyreek.
Yeah, Tyreek Hill's going as the wide receiver 9 right now. We kind of listed that off beginning of the show here. That's too much for me. I can't get behind that either. I mean, you mentioned it, up and down all through Kansas City. Big weeks, huge weeks, 200-plus yard receiving weeks, and then weeks with 30 yards. I mean, at the end of the season, when it's all said and done, somehow, some way, he's going to be a top 10 wide receiver. But there's going to be weeks where he's going to give you a number 1 production. There's going to be weeks he's going to give you a 30 production.
Right.
I can't have that. I need a little bit more consistency in my life. I love things to be consistent. And another guy that's not going to give me any consistency here in 2022 is Deebo Samuel. Don't you shake your head. Don't you boo me. You're not in on Trey Lance. So why would you be in on Deebo Samuel?
Because he can run the ball.
You got Elijah Mitchell. You got Davis there. Davis Price, sorry. There's reason. San Francisco is putting athletes all over this field. That's what they've got going on. They've got a good team. Athletes everywhere. Ayuk, Kittle, Samuel, Davis Price, Elijah Mitchell, Trey Lance, athletes. Trey Lance is the key to this whole thing. He's the key to Deebo Samuel, no matter how you want to look at it. And I don't think Trey Lance is going to be able to get the job done there in San Francisco as far as fantasy is concerned. I think you're going to see a dip in what Deebo Samuel was able to do last year, simply because passes that Jimmy Garoppolo would have gotten to Deebo Samuel, I think Trey Lance is going to pull that ball down and he's going to run, which is going to take points off the table for Deebo. So when you look at Deebo Samuel right now going here at wide receiver 7, I think that's too high for him, and I'm going to avoid that at all costs. Now, Tera's player to avoid is Michael Thomas of the New Orleans Saints. I mean, we haven't seen him in almost 2 years. There's been no history of a wide receiver coming back from that injury, missing 2 seasons and being productive. In the history of the NFL, I cannot think of a single player that's been able to miss 2 seasons, come back and be productive and come back to that status in which they were before they left, right? Michael Thomas, let's be honest, before he was injured, he was putting up top 5 wide receiver numbers. He's not going to reach that. I don't even think he reached top 20 if he's back. We got Chris Olave there. We've got Jarvis Landry, who I think is going to be a good addition to the Saints offense. And what does Winston do best? He's been turned into a game manager of sorts. And that's what he was when he was there. Look at the production that he was put on. It wasn't big yardage.
It was no one to throw it to, so he became a game manager,
Well, that's what it was. I mean, it is what it is, but we know he wants to take that deep shot. If he gets that opportunity to let loose, he's going to take the deep shot. And guess what? They've got the guy already there, Chris Olave, right? They're going to get him the ball. That's where the deep shot's going to come from. I'm going to call him Olave. You call him what you ever want. I'm calling him the second baseman for the Houston Astros for all I care. I mean, Marquez Callaway, he's still there as well. I mean, you want a deep shot? Winston had that chemistry with him. So we haven't seen Winston with Thomas yet, so I can see why he's a player I would avoid, at least temper expectations on. Now, when we look at players, as far as the wide receiver position is concerned, that could sneak in the top 12, currently outside of the top 30. Major, who do you got right now?
Actually, I'm going to do this one for me and Tera. Like, surprise, surprise. She's actually put Kristen Kirk, and I did too. And that's weird, but knowing her, she probably did it for all kind of other reasons. I'm going to act like I'm her right now. Because the stats and the numbers and the last year, the numbers, blah, 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 blah. That's what Tera does. I'm going to give you what I see and like in football,
Well, Major, before we go any further here, I just finished taking a workplace harassment and respect course, and that sounds like targeted bullying to me.
It is. Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Because Tera is the bully, and this is my time to get her back because she's not here to give me that eye, and I'll be like, get scared. So I'm gonna.
Right now, you're like that. You're like that husband right now. Is like, you see those TikTok videos, like I'm not afraid of my wife, and he goes like, she looks at you like, as soon as that side eye comes, you're gone.
Yeah, if Tera pops on screen right now, I'm going to be afraid, but she's not here, so I'm gonna talk all the shit I want. So yeah. Like I said, she's going to be like all the numbers and all the stuff that happened the years ago, whatever. I was going to give you this football acumen. Like, he had two of the best wide receiver mentors that you can have ever in a career. I think no one's ever had that. 3, who's the third one?
Larry Fitzgerald was there with Christian Kirk, man.
Oh, but Christian, he wasn't he was a baby, but I'll give you that. Thank you for that. I'll take all 3 of those.
Babies are more impressionable than anybody else. Careful little eyes what you see, careful little ears what you hear.
Because he has
Christian Kirk Christian Kirk has half a mind, he would have been learning a thing or two from Larry Fitzgerald.
And I think he did, because if you check out his numbers when Nuke went down last year, his numbers were pretty good. And I think that's what got him that contract. And you're playing with the golden boy. Again, I keep saying people are off on Trevor Lawrence after one season with a bad coach. It makes no sense that no one's talking about this guy as like a bounce back player or breakout player or whatever you want to call him. I think Trevor Lawrence is the real deal. He's the most athletic quarterback we've had since John Elway, or maybe even God, what's the guy from Indiana back in like a few years ago, just retired?
Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck. You talk about these type of quarterbacks, they always end up performing. Like John Elway didn't come out the box and balled his first year. It took a year or two to get acclimated to the game. And when you put that stupid coach, why is he a coach? But that was the worst coaching I've ever seen in the NFL pretty much ever. And there's been some bad coaches. So I think Trevor's going to be back on track with a coach that made Carson Wentz look like an MVP type quarterback. So I think, and Christian Kirk is going to be that number one receiver. And he has another veteran receiver to kind of lean on in Jones. So everything works out. And he seems like a very astute player, very smart Notre Dame kid. Like, he's taking advantage of all that knowledge has been passed down by all these great and veteran receivers. So I think it's going to be, if he can have a breakout, I think he may have had that a little bit already, but I think he's going to break out as our wide receiver 1 this year.
I'm not going to go back too much into mine here. You got Christian Kirk. He's going off the board, but wide receiver 40 right now, as the ADP is concerned. So I think there's some value to be had there. I've got Russell Gage currently as a wide receiver 38. I talked about him a little bit earlier. Then we were talking about Tera's players there that she thinks that are undervalued. So for me, I agree. I love myself some Russell Gage. He's one of those guys I think could sneak easily inside the top 30, especially with Chris Godwin missing time. And who knows? Maybe the Bucs say, hey, we're doing good. We're in a good position. We can afford Chris Godwin to miss a couple more weeks to get him back to 100% before playoff time. So I think Chris Godwin has some really good value here. Which wide receiver do you think takes the biggest leap from last year?
I'm going to go with Gabe Davis. Like, he ended the season off looking like the best receiver in the league. Like, he was a little Chase out there running around and catching all the touchdowns and looking just like what we thought he would be. I've been on him for a while, kind of fell off a little bit just because I didn't see the production. But now that he is the true wide receiver 2 on that team, I think he's going to you're going to see him thrive. With gosh, I'm missing all the names right now. Who's the other receiver right now?
Stephon Diggs.
Thank you. Golly, I can't remember any names today. But yeah, but Diggs is going to have those double teams. Gabe Davis is going to be running those underneath routes, running, those corners, those post corners that he likes, and he's going to eat. And I think that, that's just a recipe for greatness when you can be one-on-one and you're a bully. He is that. He's a bully.
Well, Gabe Davis is going to need to give himself some playoff action type in the regular season. I mean, he went off in the playoffs, 5 touchdowns in those 2 games there, 4 against the Chiefs alone in that matchup. I mean, he basically almost equaled his yardage. I think he had like 300 yards receiving in the playoffs compared to like 500 in the regular season. So, I mean, he's going to need to take whatever he was doing there in the playoffs has to translate in the regular season.
And Sanders is gone now too, so I think that's going to help a lot.
Cole Beasley, Sanders.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Isaiah McKenzie is going to take a little bit more of a step up. I think he's sneaky this year. Jamison Crowder is still there. I mean, there's still some weapons there for this Bills offense. Not to mention,
he's a true number 2 now, right? Can you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I think he's the number 2 option there. James Cook could take away some pass catching ability there too out of that Bills backfield. Now for Tera, Michael Pittman. I mean, you're going to take another leap when Carson Wentz is in your quarterback. Now, I get it. Carson Wentz had like a 27-7 touchdown to interception ratio. Carson Wentz did a lot of good things there with the efficiency because of what Jonathan Taylor is going to do. But now you got Matty Ice coming there to town in Indianapolis. Matt Ryan is going to turn Michael Pittman into his own Julio Jones of the Midwest, right? That's what's going to go. I'll say it right now. Pittman is that talented. Come on. You are a Southern Cal guy. You're a USC guy. So I can see a huge step for Michael Pittman this season because of the upgrade at the quarterback position. Plus, he's maturing. He's learning to be that true number one on a team. And I think he's got all the tools in place to do that. Now you give him a competent quarterback, and no knock on Carson Wentz, but you took shots at him last few shows, whether it's the quarterback show, whether it's the running back show, whatever show it was, we were taking shots at Carson Wentz. There's a reason why he was one and done in Indianapolis, and 27 touchdowns to 7 interceptions wasn't that reason. Now for me, hey, I look at these guys right now, and I'm going to go back to the well here because I'm going to go with my guy, Allen Robinson. Don't go breaking my heart. Allen Robinson couldn't if he tried. I mean, he had every opportunity last year to crush me. I cried into my pillow many nights over Allen Robinson because I believe in him. I think he's good. And I'll tell you what, one thing right now, injuries in California don't hurt nearly as much as they do in Chicago in December. Right? Those little nagging injuries are a lot worse when it's cold, right? You got Hollywood, you got the Sun Major. You're looking good. You're a California guy. I mean, very little bugs you now. Now come up to my neck of the woods here, and you're going to be hurting. You're going to be hunched over a little bit. You're going to start to show your age right now. You're just going to start looking like me. You look a lot older than you actually are. So for me, Allen Robinson is the guy I think takes the biggest leap from last year to this year. I think he's back into 1,000 yards receiving in this Rams offense. So book me down for 8 touchdowns and 1,100 yards for Allen Robinson. I think that's definitely what he could do. Now, when we look at a breakout candidate, now I went deep on mine, so I'll save mine for last. But a breakout candidate for you.
I'm going with Judy because I think I don't think he's really done anything in the league as of yet. And he's like a little volcano. He's bubbling under the surface. But I think with the addition of with Russ, I think he's going to be that number one target. I like Sutton, but I'm a Tim Patrick truther. That's like my guy. I have him in every single league. I feel like I found him as well. I picked him up a couple years ago when no one's even talking about him. And I have him across like 5 or 6 different leagues. So that's my guy. But Judy has a talent, and I think he just needed the opportunity, and I think he's going to get that with Russell out there. And if he doesn't do it now, I don't know when he will. So this is his breakout chance right now.
And for Tara, she's got Darnell Mooney as that breakout candidate. I mean, he kind of broke out a little bit last year, but again, not the respect, not the accolades that he deserves right now. So I think there's a big step coming for him here this year. We talked about the 26% target share. If you're getting over 20% of your team's targets, there's a good chance you're going to do some good things. Brandon Cooks, Marquise Hollywood Brown. These are guys that are getting over that target share along with Darnell Mooney that we're not talking about the way we should. As far as the Chases, the Jeffersons, the Cups, we're not talking about them in the same breath. They're not quite putting up that type of production, but they're putting up wide receiver one type of production from week to week. Now they can get that.
Can I boo Tara for picking a breakout player who already broken out?
You could. But now I'm gonna give you a deep. I just mentioned Marquise Hollywood Brown.
I like
149 targets there last season, right? That's pretty good. I expect him to do very similar things there in Baltimore. I know another dark horse running back that we're looking, or wide receiver that we're looking at, is Rashad Bateman. But who's that number 2 in Baltimore? How about Devin Duvernay? Those targets have to go somewhere. Mark Andrews, he had 150 targets. He can't get any more targets. You cannot target him any more than he was already getting. Rashad Bateman is going to get a lot of those targets. I mean, he is going to command the attention, this and that. Sure, Dobbins is going to factor in the passing game somewhat.
I like James Prochet a little bit.
Prochet there, he's an option too. But you know what? Devin Duvernay's that guy. He already beat out everyone last year. He was that number 2 when Hollywood went down. He was that number 2 basically when Bateman wasn't there last season and Hollywood was going off. So for me, Devin Duvernay is a guy, he's not even in the top 50, top 60, I think, as far as wide receivers and ADP is concerned. He's a guy you're getting very late, end of your drafts. If you're in redraft, even a 22-team league or 22 slots, drafts, rounds, whatever you want to call it, Devin Duvernay is a guy to target around 20, 21, 22, and I think he's still going to be there. And I mean, this is a guy I think can give you good production. Now, we all have those players that we can't quit, and I kind of alluded to Marquise Hollywood Brown here because he has been a lightning rod of topic conversation on this show many times. Everyone knows that I'm a pro Bateman guy. I was anti Marquise Brown for the most part last season. Well, a player that Tera cannot quit is Marquise Hollywood Brown. He had the targets last year. He also had the drops. His catch rate was not great. There's numbers and stats, and I think we could talk about what that catch rate was. It wasn't very good. When he gets the ball, when he's playing the game, when he's not battling injuries, he is one of the top wide receivers there is out there. However, he always seems to have some kind of ailment. Not to keep him out of the game. He plays, but he's not playing 100% of what Marquise Hollywood Brown can play. And that's the shame of it all because he has the talent. He has top 12 wide receiver capabilities. There's no question about that. But your best ability is your availability. He's not always available. When he is available, he's nicked up. Now he's going over to Arizona. DeAndre Hopkins is going to miss the first 6 weeks of the season because of the PED suspension. Hollywood Brown is going to be productive solidly for 6 weeks. Zach Ertz is still there. He's still going to get a little bit there. Rondell Moore, we're hearing good things out of camp. He's going to get some production there. But it is going to be Marquise Hollywood Brown as that number one target. Give Kyler Murray his college target back, his number one target back in college. Yes, even more so than CD Lamb. Book it. Marquise Hollywood Brown is going to have a good season.
He's from College of the Canyon, so like we just ball out. So go ahead, Hollywood. Let's go.
Well, give me a player that you cannot quit right now. Who's that going to be?
And I feel bad about this one because I totally quit on him. I don't know if you recall the show, but I said I was off of Paris Campbell. But then today, I got a notification on Sleeper saying that he looks really good and he's taking all the reps with the first team. And just like that, I'm back in. Let's go, Paris. Paris Campbell is the man. I thought he was the best receiver out of that Ohio State class that had a Scary Terry and a few other guys that was all really good. I love Paris Campbell, and in the preseason, he's like the man. If you watch any like practice tape or any camp tape, you're going to see some amazing one-hand catches. He reminded me of like Odell Beckham. Hopefully these injuries that he's had the last 2 seasons doesn't really take away from his athleticism, but he has every tool, and the receivers, everyone, I know people fell in love with Michael Pittman, but to me, it feels like he's more of a possession receiver. I like Paris to be that deep threat, that go-to guy, the excitement, the lightning rod for that offense. So hopefully he can. And honestly, I hate seeing players who just can't stay healthy. That's like one of my biggest like pet peeves. Because it's just like I root for those guys so hard because it's just like I've been there, I've been injured, and I'm like, man, I can't do what I want to do, but the talent is there. He's gonna be good. So I'm back on Paris, and I'm sorry that I dumped you, dude. So salute to you, my friend. You're going to ball out this season.
You know what? I can totally relate to Paris Campbell. I'm one of the most talented podcasters out there, but I do battle the injury. I mean, I sneeze and my back gets thrown out. That's where I'm at in my life right now. So like this back, it's sneeze, boom, I'm out. 3 to 6 weeks, easily right there. But you talk about him being the deep threat, but there's Alec Pierce, man. Alec Pierce.
True. Damn,
the dude is the definition of a freak.
But he's a possession receiver.
Yeah, possession. He can possess that ball 40, 50 yards downfield. I mean, the dude runs a sick 40. I mean,
that's my guy too. He's my guy too, though.
So yeah, no, I get it. I mean, I cannot get behind Paris Campbell until I actually see him on the field. Right now, he's like a unicorn. And I don't mean like a Kyle Pitts unicorn. I mean something you don't actually see, right?
When he goes, it's gonna be, I'm gonna be like so happy. Like if him and Ramondre just both like break out the same season, I think I'm gonna be like the greatest podcaster ever.
Paris Campbell's like the Sasquatch, like the Nessie, the Loch Ness monster. I mean, we've heard stories of this magnificent player
I
but
hear
we've
you.
never seen it ourselves.
Right.
Now, for me, we know a player I can't quit. I don't need to give this guy any more introduction. He's come up on the show multiple times on this episode alone. Allen Robinson. I mean, we won't go into detail. I've already talked in length about him, but man, I can't quit him. Can't do it. Hey, you know what though? I will say this. My love for Allen Robinson and my ability not to quit him has kind of surpassed my ability to not quit Josh Gordon. By the way, Josh Gordon is still on like all my dynasty rosters just as a tribute. He's still there. He's still on all my benches. So I haven't quit Josh Gordon. He's my ultimate player I can't quit, but Robinson's now kind of replaced him a little bit. He's still there, but Robinson's got the torch now. When we talk about which teams in the NFL have the best receiver room, what do you got for us, Major?
Okay, I don't know if it's like actually the best, but I'm gonna go with the fastest. I'm gonna go with Tyreek Hill. I'm gonna go with Jalen Waddle. I'm gonna go with Cedric Wilson. I'm gonna give you a little Lynn Bowden. I'm gonna give you a little. I'm gonna go with another one of my guys that's been kind of injured, but I think he's one of these guys I just can't quit either, and that's Preston Williams. And then he also got this kid, this young kid, Eric Zingamama, whatever his name is. I'm gonna do what Matt says and just say it real fast. Eric Izamaka, and then we just gonna call it a day.
Just let it go. As soon as you let it go, just say it with confidence. Say it like you believe it.
And
Say
just
it
go.
like it's the truth.
Yeah.
And people will just nod their head. They'll go with it. They'll kind of get like a stink eye here. But you've already moved on to the next sentence, right? As soon as you say it, you move on to the next sentence, so no one can go back and correct you.
Learn something new every day.
Miami, hey, they got the Miami Vice thing going on there. That need for speed there down in Miami. They can do all kinds of things in this offense. It's going to be exciting to see. Now, again, Tera and I lockstep when it comes to the best wide receiver room in the league. I'm sure you would have gone that, but you wanted to be a little bit different. I mean, we could talk about the New York Football Jets. We could talk about Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, and Corey Davis. That's a pretty good trio. We could talk about a team in Denver, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, which I kind of thought you had originally gone with. Yeah. And then you switched to the speed. We could also talk about some of these other teams here in the National Football League that have very good wide receiver rooms. And then we're not talking about throwing the tight end because that changes the whole dynamic of everything as well. And the other one I was thinking was the Bucks. I mean, when the Bucks are 100% healthy, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, Russell Gage, another fantastic trio. Unfortunately, that's not the case off the start of the season. What is the case is Jamar Chase, is T. Higgins. I mean, you got 2 top 10 ADP wide receivers there. And then you got Tyler Boyd. This team has 3 top 30 wide receivers ready to go right now. Tyler Boyd is going to give you productive weeks. We know there are weeks in Cincinnati where Jamar Chase is not the focal point of this offense because he's the focal point of the defense, right? We've seen Jamar Chase have some down games, and those are typically the games in which T. Higgins absolutely dominated, and that's why he was so high in the rankings. So Tyler Boyd, he's also one of those guys who's going to get some production from time to time. So that's why this is the best trio of wide receivers currently right now in the NFL. Now, when we talk about...
Let me give you one sleeper one that's kind of... I want to hear your thoughts on this. What about the Commandos? They got Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, Curtis Samuel. Like, they have some pretty good receivers right there. And they have, what's his name? Denami Brown. Like, they got some receivers out there.
Yeah, they got some field stretches there. Dimey Brown there, North Carolina product there, had some good seasons there. Did not materialize last year. I thought he had a good chance. So we've seen this Commanders team previously. Back in the late 80s, early 90s, we all watched this show. It was called the Smurfs. I mean, we got Jahan Dotson, we've got Terry McLaurin.
You can say that about Miami too, though. You can say that about Miami.
Got Curtis Samuel. Not one of these wide receivers, not one is over 6 feet. You have to go all the way to Antonio Golden Gandy before you find a wide receiver on this Washington roster over 6 feet.
He's a tight end now.
Yeah. Well, luckily for them, they've also got Logan Thomas, who's probably going to miss the first 6 weeks. He won't be ready. Another big tight end. They got Bates, another big tight end. And they've got this kid out of Nevada, Cole Turner, another big tight end, 6'6", 240 kind of range. Watch him, by the way. We didn't talk about him on the tight end show, but Cole Turner, he could be sneaky. Maybe not this year, but next year for sure. But yeah. So that's my thoughts on the Washington wide receiver trio. Now, when we look at players we are drafting no matter what, Tera, she's coming a little bit of homerism here with Allen Lazard. I mean, it doesn't really surprise us. I get it. I mean, We talk about vacated targets. Devontae Adams is no longer there in Green Bay. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is no longer there in Green Bay. We do know, though, that when Devontae Adams missed 7 games there over his career there with the Packers, it was a huge uptick in production for Aaron Jones, right? We know that targets, yardage, all that stuff trends upwards for Aaron Jones. So who's going to be the other benefactor to all this? Could Allen Lazard be that? Is it going to be Amari Rodgers? I don't know how this offense is going to shape out. Sammy Watkins. Never Sammy is always my answer. Just put every question out there. But I mean, this wide receiver room, it's dare I say, it's probably one of the worst in the league. Definitely bottom 10. I'm definitely going to say Green Bay has the bottom 10 wide receiver. And Chris, say what you want about Christian Watson. I don't think he's the best rookie on this team because Romeo Dubes is an absolute freak show. I love this kid out of Nevada again. I think he could be better than Christian Watson. If Christian Watson struggles, and I mean, don't be surprised if Dubes comes above him or whatever his name is there, Dubes. Romeo, where art thou, Romeo? He's in the end zone before Christian Watson. That's where he is. Now, for you, who's that wide receiver? And again, this kind of goes back and forth with us a little bit because I'm not as high on him as you are, obviously, but who is that player you're drafting no matter what? And kind of tell me why I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm just going to go Debo, and mostly because Shanahan find a way to scheme things up. He said he doesn't want to run the ball as much anymore. So they're going to shovel past the heck out of this guy. And a shovel pass counts as a reception. And he's going to take that thing at least 10 to 15 yards every single time. And I think he once a player gets a taste of being like the man, you want that back, even though he's being, a little. And I think a lot of that stuff about not playing running back and all that stuff, it was he wanted more money and he was trying to get that going and hey, I'm playing running back and receiver, pay me as so. But he's he's a freak of nature. He is a bully. I love bully receivers. He can take a 5-yard slant to the house, and that's what's going to happen because I don't know if they're going to trust Trey Lance to throw the ball, 20 yards down the field. So there's going to be a lot of short routes, a lot of underneath routes, a lot of shovel passes, a lot of trickery. So I think he's going to be a benefactor of a lot of those plays. And again, once you get that taste of being a man, and just seeing him, remember at the championship when everyone went to the locker room, he's sitting on the bench crying, confetti coming down on him. He's going to come back a monster. That type of stuff, that's like the Michael Jordan, that's like the Kobe Bryant type of thing where you don't leave the field, you stay out there so you can feel that feeling so you can get back to it. And I think he's going to do whatever he can and has to do to get there. So I'm big on Debo.
Well, guys that I'm looking at here right now, when I'm looking at this in particular for players that I absolutely have to come out of this draft no matter what, I'm looking at that target share because that's important for me, especially if I'm taking wide receivers in the 7th, 8th, 9th round, that type of range. These are guys I would love to get on my team. Now, some of them are a little bit, they're going to go before this and whatnot, but just going to give you the guys who all had at least a 20% target share from last season. Let me just pull. Yeah, we got here. Starting off 20.1%, Amon-Ra St. Brown. That number is probably going to change because we got some pieces coming in. Jameson Williams is going to get a little bit of that attention. Hunter Renfrow, he may not get that same target share because Devontae Adams, or it could be more. He could fill that Julian Edelman type role that was New England. That's the same offense that's coming.
Oh, you're right. I'll give it to you.
Target share, maybe not the big touchdowns, but I think Hunter Renfrow could still be a good option. Devontae Smith, 20.4. Tyler Lockett, he still had 21.1%. Jalen Waddle, he had 21.6. Jamar Chase, 23.1. That was kind of what his target share was last year. Kind of low when you think about it. Now, Keenan Allen, 23.3. Deebo Samuel, he came in at 23.5.
Do the whole league?
No, I'm just going over the top 20 guys in the 20% range. Now, here's where it gets interesting. These are guys I really like because they're value. Jacoby Myers, 23.6% target share last season. Devontae Parker ain't it, right? Devontae Parker, he's not the answer. I'm not worried about Devontae Parker. Terry McLaurin, you talked about those commander receivers, 23.6% target share. Is Johan Dotson going to cut into that? Is Curtis Samuel going to cut into that? I don't know. Tyreek Hill, 23.6. That's with Travis Kelce. So Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, that can work, right? We know that can work. Marquise Brown, 23.7 there in Baltimore. But here's my guy right now, Brandon Cooks, 134 targets last year, right? Averaged 8.4 yards per target. The catch rate at 67.2%, 24.5% target share. John Michie's coming. He's still working himself back from the ACL.
You say he's
Brandon
ahead of
Cooks,
schedule. He's
ahead of schedule.
Yeah.
But Brandon Cooks is a guy I am not leaving a draft without. He's a guy I'm grabbing because I'm getting him in the 7th, in the 8th round. I mean, that's where he's going. 7th round, if you're getting a wide receiver 1, a guy who could flirt with top 12 production, then we know the targets are going to be there. That's why I'm going to go for him. Now, the other guys who are just above him in target share, Pittman, Diggs, Mark Andrews, Deontay Johnson, Darnell Mooney, I mentioned that, to almost 26%. DK Metcalf, DJ Moore, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, Cooper Kupp. Those are the only receivers ahead of Brandon Cooks when it comes to target share. So give me all the Brandon Cooks.
I think you're sleeping. You're sleeping on Nico Collins and John Minchie. I think they're both.
I like Nico Collins. I do.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a good number 2 option. I think he's going to be a red zone guy. But I'm talking about targets. Give me that target share because I know that consistency is going to be there, right? I know those targets are going to be there. And I know Brandon Cooks can do stuff with those targets. So for me, that's what I'm banking on. And that's why that's the guy I'm drafting no matter what. Now, when we talk about these dark horse wide receiver 1, I'm not talking about top 12 wide receiver 1s here. I'm talking about who is going to be the number 1 overall wide receiver. Who has that potential? We know Cooper Kupp. We know Justin Jefferson. We know Jamar Chase. They're all vying for that crown. I mean, and I can't fault anyone for putting one above the other. But we want to go a little bit deeper here. So Tera, she hit us with CD Lamb as her dark horse wide receiver 1 here heading into the 2022 season. And when you look at he had 120 targets last year. No more Amari Cooper, right? Cedric Wilson, you mentioned him heading to Miami. So that could go up. He had 7.5 yards per target last year. He had 18.5% target share there in Dallas with Cooper, with Cedric Wilson. That catch rate, though, 65.8% there. Touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 79 receptions. Those numbers are going to have to go up if he's going to have a shot at it. I mean, I love CD Lamb. I had him as a top 5 wide receiver last year, and I was wrong. But, hey, I still think he can ascend to that here in 2022. Who do you got?
I have Bateman. I mean, they have to throw the ball eventually, right? They can't run the ball every play. And, I mean, you mentioned Duvernay. I mentioned Porsche. I like both of those receivers a lot. I'm really high on both of those guys, but hopefully one of them can break out. But I think you're going to need another year maybe for both of those guys. And Bateman he's going to get most of the target share. You're speaking about how important target share really is. And I think this is probably going to be one of the top 3 receivers with, getting that target share. Just because he's the only receiver on the team. So I'm going with Bateman on that one.
And for me, I'm going with someone who's been consistent throughout his whole career. 10 touchdowns, 1,000 yards guaranteed. The only receiver ever to start his career with 8 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Mike Evans, who is also somehow, despite all of this, disrespected not only in the NFL, but in the fantasy community.
True.
How do you disrespect a wide receiver who's put up 1,000 yards in 8 consecutive seasons? Randy Moss did not do it. Jerry Rice did not do it. Calvin Johnson did not do it. You know who did? Mike Evans. So let's put some respect on his name. No Chris Godwin there this year. No Rob Gronkowski. It's going to be Cameron Brayden, Kate Otten there at the tight end position. No Antonio Brown. Yes, we know Mike Evans did not have a high target share last year, but there's a lot of targets missing from that lineup. Yes, Russell Gage is going to get some of that. Rashad White's going to get some of that too out of Arizona State. Lenny Fournette, maybe he puts down the cheeseburger, he might catch a ball once in a while there in Tampa Bay. But hey, listen, Mike Evans has that potential to be the number 1 overall wide receiver because we know he's going to be Tom Brady's target in the end zone. That's not going to change. Rob Gronkowski gone actually increases that opportunity. I would not be surprised if we're looking at 15, 16 touchdown season out of Mike Evans. I mean, that may be a little high, but I think it's possible. And we know he's going to get it. And we know he's going to give us 1,000 yards. We have no reason not to believe it. He's did it every single year. So if there's no injuries to Mike Evans and Brady is still playing Brady like he doesn't fall off the cliff, Mike Evans could be the number 1 overall wide receiver, ahead of Justin Jefferson, ahead of Chase, ahead of Cooper Kupp. And before anyone kind of blasts me about, oh, Mike Evans can't be the number 1, no one said that about Cooper Kupp last year. And if you did, you are lying, because no one saw Cooper Kupp as the number 1 overall receiver. No one saw Cooper Kupp go on that historical wide receiver run that he put on last year. No one would have predicted that. No one predicted it. And if they say they did, they are lying. So for me, I'm saying Mike Evans has that ability to be the number 1 receiver. Put him down for 1,200 yards and 15 touchdowns. I think that puts him right in the conversation.
I'm with you on that. That makes sense.
See, Major, that is how you testify for your player. That's how you go to war for your guys. Get that energy going here. It's late. I get it. It's like late show here.
Gave him a compliment. He didn't even know how to act. He just
No, I don't. I can't do that. I'll grab my flag, I'll plant it, and you say something nice, I'll pick it up and I'll start waving it. That's how I roll.
Break it and let you do it.
You know what? You know the best thing about breaking over your knee? You got 2 of them then. Right? That's kind of what we do.
That is so. That is so you.
All being said, hey, if you want some good images there, head over to my Twitter account. They're at Matt Donnelly FF. I got the Bo Jackson pose going down. You want to check that out.
Check it out.
You're going to want to check out fantasypoints.com right now. A lot of great content coming there. And you can get that subscription to that site at 10% off by using promo code Vipers22. And hey, tune in to the Vipers Network. Hit the thumbs up button. Get those notifications turned on, because we got so much content coming at you here in the next few weeks. We've got our training camp previews. We've got our Fantasy 5 assets, where we break down the top 5 assets for every team in the National Football League. Yes, right here on the Vipers Network in video form. And of course, the home of the ViperCast and the Behind the Grind series. So get ready. We got you covered. When news happens, when everything goes down, we got you here. So don't you worry about that. We will see you next week. Take care.